Hello! So I thought I'd do something a little bit different for this particular newsletter and record it as a video too. Yes, it's because I've got a new camera and I want to have a play with it. And if you are an agency or a freelancer and on my list, you'll already know what I mean by that. However, it's also because if you're anything like me, you never quite get round to reading newsletter emails. But at the same time, I seem to be able to waste hours watching videos on YouTube. So I figured, why not combine the two? Anyway, I'd love to know what you think about the video version. Should it be something that I keep doing? Feel free to drop me a reply with your thoughts. But today I want to talk to you about 2020. And let's be honest, it's been a terrible year for most organisations. Small agencies and freelancers have been struggling financially, while more well-established companies have been letting staff go, pausing investment and stopping spending generally. And that's not even to mention the enormous human cost in lives and livelihood. It would be perfectly understandable just to wish that the whole year had never happened. And it's certainly negatively impacted my own mental health, and I'm sure it has yours too. Unfortunately, no amount of wishing is going to make the whole nasty business go away. But what we can do is look for good in what is a terrible situation. It may feel like there's nothing that could possibly come out of this mess that's positive in any way. However, I have seen a few glimmers of hope that get me excited about the possibility. Now, we've all seen, of course, the story of people's community spirit and their selfless actions. However, I'm also seeing positive things happening in the business world too. Little glimmers of light, if you like, that give me hope that maybe we can learn something from this whole sorry situation. So what I want to do is explore a few of those and maybe get you as excited as I am about the possibilities. So nearly 7 years ago, I lamented the fact that many companies were resisting remote working. And although things have improved, it still continues to be a problem and has been ever since. Yes, home working has its challenges. Trust me, I know. I've been working from home for 18 years, 13 of which I spent running an agency with many employees spread out across the whole of the UK. However, I've always believed that the benefits outweigh the drawbacks when it comes to remote working. Probably the biggest of which is the fact that you get to recruit the best people for the job, not just the people that live nearby. I just couldn't understand why organisations wouldn't even give this a try. I could understand their hesitancy, but why not give it a go? Fortunately, COVID-19 has forced the hands of many organisations, and sure enough, it's been shown to work for many of them. If you've been struggling to get your organisation to adopt remote working, I would encourage you to not allow things to slide back after this pandemic eases, but to keep pushing for long-term change and the opportunity to work in more appropriate ways for the digital world in which we live in. The problem with remote working is that it's something new and we always favour the familiar and the comfortable. Another example of that is training workshops. A big part of my work pre-pandemic was running training workshops. Organisations would gather employees from all over the country and occasionally all over the world to hear me teach them about user experience design, conversion rate optimisation or digital transformation. And don't get me wrong, it was a sweet gig, as I got to visit places all around the world, from Thailand and Hong Kong to San Francisco and Geneva. However, I confess it always struck me as a bit of a poor business decision. The travel and accommodation expenses were huge, not to mention everybody's time away from the office. However, often they would have to run the same workshop multiple times because they would get new staff on board, or others will have missed the earlier workshop or moved into different positions. Then there was the fact that often people would forget what they'd learned because they weren't implementing those skills on a daily basis. Today, things seem to be shifting. Suddenly, organisations are more open to me when I talk about things like self-learning video courses or running virtual coaching. They place an emphasis on things like digital playbooks and documentation, as well as things like webinars, rather than everybody has to sit in the same room. This new attitude doesn't just apply to training either. Design thinking has long relied heavily on workshop exercises, but now people are increasingly becoming open to approaching some of these design challenges in different ways that are not so people intensive. Take this opportunity to experiment with how you involve stakeholders and educate your organization about digital best practice, because you will be surprised just how open people are at the moment to doing things differently. Now, I tend to work with well-established organizations that often are market leaders in their field, and they always used to have this attitude of, oh, don't rock the boat, making it impossible to introduce any kind of change in the organisation. Of course, unfortunately, the majority of what we do is about change. You can't improve the user experience or fully embrace digital without fundamentally changing the way organisations work. Now, the pandemic has swept aside all of that. Suddenly, people are willing to break with conventions and to work in a more agile and iterative way, adapting to the fast-changing environment that we as digital professionals have always lived in. Best of all, they are discovering that the world doesn't implode just because you rock the boat a little bit. If ever there was a time to suggest new ways of working, now is that moment. Embrace it. And nowhere is this more pronounced than in the sudden adoption of digital. Of course, most organisations have accepted the importance of digital for some time now, but for many, they seem to limit their thinking to digital is just a marketing tool. They haven't seen its full potential to fundamentally redefine how we do business. But today, that's beginning to change. During this pandemic, organisations have been seeing digital as having a broader role as a communication tool, that it provides support with customers, and it can do so much more in terms of how we're organised internally. In fact, back in 2014, I wrote a post that outlined 10 roles that the web could perform beyond just marketing. And today it feels like that message is finally beginning to sink in. This fact provides you with an opportunity to demonstrate the value of what you do beyond just creating online brochures. It's an opportunity that we should be grasping with both hands, and that's really the message that I want to leave you with today. I want you to realise that this pandemic has offered you an opportunity to redefine your organisation and how it operates, and to expand your perceived value to that organisation. However, that's only going to happen if you keep pushing to keep the momentum going that has been started by the pandemic. If we don't, then old habits will re-establish themselves and everyone will fall back into their own ways of working. So now is your chance. Please don't waste it.